Hey guys, welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is all about the 10 best Dollar Tree DIYs that I did in 2022. I hope that yours made the list. So sit back and enjoy these top 10 Dollar Tree DIYs of 2022. If you do like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing and becoming my crafting BFF. If you do like any of today's projects or one of your favorites made the list, remember to hit that thumbs up and let me know that you did like what you saw in this video. But let's get right into the DIYs. These little mini charcuterie or cutting boards from Dollar Tree are darling. They're in their crafting section. I'm also using a crate and then a dowel, which you could also use a plunger handle if you want to grab everything from Dollar Tree. Now, these are the exact perfect size to fit on the sides of one of these crates, and I thought this would make a darling little box. So I'm just using some wood glue on the sides of my crate here, and I'm just going to glue both of those charcuterie boards onto the side of my little crate there so we can make our little box. I like to take my little box I set up on the table to make sure it has a flat bottom and kind of use my fingers to kind of zhuzh those little charcuterie boards around to make sure all of the lines end up even and everything. And then I just put some wood glue on my dowel and I just carefully slide that in between those. And then I just use a wipe to wipe any excess wood glue off. And then I just kind of press it to make sure everything is good. So I take some little half beads now and I'm just using a little bit of super glue and the wood glue, and I'm gluing those on the outside part of where my dowel is. It's going to look like it's covering a little nail head or something. I thought it would be a really cute contrast, completely optional if you decide not to do this part. I haven't yet seen any half beads at Dollar Tree. If you guys have seen anything like that, I would love for you to let me know down in the comments. I do get mine on Amazon. I'll put a link to those down below, but I'm excited and hopeful that Dollar Tree will hopefully come out with something like that fairly soon. I did clamp this together, but I don't think that you would have to do that. I just left it to dry for about 30 minutes, but I think without the clamp, you would be fine. But now I'm going to go ahead and paint this. And at first I decided just to paint the entire thing white and kind of start from there and kind of look at it and see what I wanted to do with it, if I wanted to add contrasting colors or do a pattern or anything like that. So just give this a spray paint, or if you just want to use chalk paint, however you want to get this painted, you'll just do your choice. When I did get it all painted white, it was very stark and it needed something. So I thought I would go around all of the edges and give kind of that black farmhouse look to it. I thought this was really cute. It took a little bit of patience just to make sure I didn't get black paint spilled over onto the white. Of course, you would have to go back and touch up if you did that. And then just very carefully, I painted those little half beads as well as the handle on it also. In the end, I really love how this turns out with the two-tone, and I'm really glad that I took the time to do this because it really does kind of make this piece. Now, the sides are a little bit plain, and so you can embellish them however you want, or you can leave them. I'm just showing you what I did with mine, so this step is completely optional. I do use a couple or just one of the Charcuterie little stencils here. So when you use Charcuterie, you just kind of put it on a little fuzzing mat there. It just kind of makes that stencil not as sticky, so it's not going to tear your paint or anything up. And then you just use chalk paste that they sell and you just kind of put that over with a squeegee. It's very much like screen printing. When you pull back that, the design is revealed and it looks really cute. Check my description box for more information on Charcuterie. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you, but just know that you're going to use whatever means you have available to you to embellish yours. So it does not have to be like mine. This is just meant to be inspiration. Now I sanded the edges and then I took a little bit of black paint on a baby wipe and I just am running my finger over all of the edges on this. And for some reason, this is what really made the piece to me. I'm not really sure if it just gave it like a defining something or made it look like enamel or what it was, but I really, as I started this, I wasn't sure I was going to like it, and I fell in love as I was doing this. I thought it really, really made the piece. So inside and out, I just go over all of the edges, and then I even decided to go over the crate, which I wasn't really sure about, but I am so glad that I did because I do like the definition that it gives and like how it turns out. Now, if this is not your style or you're not loving how this looks, obviously skip this step, but it's totally my style, and I think it really just screams farmhouse, and I love it. Remember to subscribe if you're liking the projects that you're seeing today. These are some of my most favorite farmhouse projects. The next one that I do is my absolute Dollar Tree favorite of all time. This is very close though. I love how this turns out. So I'm going to show you from a different couple of angles here. Depending on your decor or where you want to set this in your house, you can set it sideways. It looks super cute at an angle or straight on. Either way with a little plant. You could even stick whatever you wanted in there besides a plant. I love how this turns out, and I think literally this is one of my favorites. I think it is absolutely beautiful. I love picking up these tag-shaped signs at Dollar Tree. They're so fun to give a makeover to. So I'm just going to try and peel this front of this sign off here, which I feel like the majority of the time, this is exactly what happens. You think you're going to get it, and then it just rips, and there's no way to get the rest of it off. So I'm just cutting some craft paper down to size and just putting some hot glue around the edge, and then I will just lay that craft paper down on the top, and the front of the sign will now become the back of our sign. And what I do here is I'll just cut this paper down to size after I get it adhered, and then I just take my emery board and go around the edges to give it a nice, crisp, clear look. It gives it that clean edge so it looks like it was made to be that way. I'm just using a skewer to mark where the holes are on the back of my paper. And then I have this paper I got at Hobby Lobby. It looks like galvanized metal, and I thought it would be so cute to have this tag kind of have a galvanized feel. So the same process I did with the back, I just cut this down kind of to size. But on this side, I'm using some Elmer school glue. This is the time of the year to pick the school glue up. You'll start seeing it in the school supply section, and it will go on a really good sale. Pick this stuff up. I love using it for these projects, and I've never had a project where like the glue, like the project has lifted up, if that makes sense. I've never had the paper come off or anything. So you can see I had to piece two pieces together there, and I'm just using my brayer to get this really down good to make sure that it's not going to come up or anything. And then the same process, I'll cut off the excess, and then I will go around and file the edges to give it that nice, crisp, clean look. Since we did the barbecue skewers through the backing, it is very easy to find where those holes are, so I'll just pull those through so I can add a hanging tag. And I have this cute little mason jar from Dollar Tree. This is a fairly new item, I believe. So I'm just removing their little bow that was on it so I can embellish it myself. And I use one of these little 3-dimensional stickers that came from Dollar Tree. And now I'm just wrapping some twine around the top of it, and I just use some hot glue to make sure that sticks really well onto the back. I made this cute little finger bow out of twine and added some of the little Dollar Tree beads to the bottom of it. I thought that was super cute. Now just taking some tumbling tower blocks, I'm gluing these onto my sign, and I want this jar to fit at an angle on these. So I put some glue on the bottom of the jar so it can glue to the sign, and then I will have those tumbling tower blocks raise it up so I can change the florals in and out for different seasons, because I thought it would be kind of fun to make this so you could have it for different seasons of the year. So you can see how those florals just tuck right down into there. Now I just use some jute twine and feed it through those holes, and I tie some knots on the front. You could do like embellish this however you wanted. If you wanted like a beaded loop on there would be super cute, rope, anything like that. You wouldn't even have to put one on there. But there we have it. I think it turns out so cute. What do you guys think of this? And I love that I can switch those flowers out, and I really think that paper makes it look like galvanized metal on there. What do you guys think of this one? I have a couple of these cutting board signs left over from Dollar Tree's Easter collection, so I am just going to remove the little tacks on here. Now this project ended up taking on a totally different look and feel than what I originally had anticipated. So if you wanted to save yourself some time, you could just tape off the background here and just paint this front portion of the sign. My thought was I was going to try to peel off the paper and then be able to have a blank surface, and then I thought, well, I'll pull it up, do that, and then glue it back on. But as you can see here, when I take this up, like it just ripped the paper and everything, and so I kind of had to go to plan B. So I'm just taking some of my school glue, and I'll use a combination of the school glue and the hot glue just to make sure that all of the edges are down really well. And I just put some craft paper over the front of this, and this is going to become the back of my little cutting board sign here. So you can see here I've got those different types of glue on there, and I'll just lay this down on the paper, and then I will just cut all of the excess paper off. Well, first I rub it down there, and then I cut all of the excess paper off. And then using my emery board, I just go around all of the edges, and then to get that little hole in the center, I just use an X-Acto knife to cut that out. Now I have this little block of wood left over. It was a tic-tac-toe set that I used in like my Valentine 5 under 5, and so I'm just using this to replace that little square sign to go on the front. So I just paint this completely just in some black. I think this is actually chalkboard paint that I'm using. And then on my actual cutting board, I just give it a couple coats of white paint. I like the contrast of the white and the black. Now I'm going to use this little stencil here, but unfortunately I don't have footage of me doing the actual stencil, but I'm just showing you here that I'm going to go around the edges, and I'm going to make this have that enameled look. So just using my sponge tool, I go around all of the edges, and then if you happen to kind of go up over the edge to kind of make it look like it's chipped, I really like that look. So that's kind of a matter of personal preference. So that's up to you. You can kind of see I intentionally do that here. Again, that's personal preference, but I really like the aged look that it gives the pieces. Using a detail brush, I just do the inside of that little circle cut out on the handle. And I was just showing you that what the stencil looked like after I finished pouncing up and down my paint on there. So I just take some hot glue and I glue this little square onto the front of my cutting board. Now I got this big spool of buffalo check ribbon on Amazon and it's lasted me forever. I'll leave a link to it in my description box, but I just tie a cute little piece on there and cut some little dovetails. I just love the way this turns out. I think it is so cute. It's perfect for a farmhouse kitchen, and I just really love that design that Dollar Tree came out with for that stencil. What do you guys think of this one? If you have a stash or pick up these little pallets from Dollar Tree's crafting area and wonder what to do with them, I have the best DIY for you here. This is by far my favorite Dollar Tree DIY ever. So I am using 9 of these and I'm going to make a tray with them. So I'm just using a combination of wood glue and super glue, just the super glue and wood glue I got from Dollar Tree. And I'm just kind of alternating. The super glue gives it more of a like quick hold, if that makes sense here, while it lets the wood glue dry. So that's why I decided to use that. I don't love using hot glue in instances like this where I need the pieces to fit together tight, because I feel like sometimes the hot glue will dry in between and they'll kind of be like a space or something. So I'm just using these and I glue 3 together end to end, and then I do that for each of my 3 rows. So that will take care of all 9 of my little pallets here. And so as you can see, I have all 3 rows done here. And then I'm just using to kind of space my wood glue out there and kind of fill in the gaps with the super glue. And I will glue these 3 rows together using the same method here. To get these to fit together very securely, I am using some clamps. You can sit and hold them for that super glue to dry, but I found that the clamps worked the best. These 4 wooden signs are from Dollar Tree also, and I'm using them for the edges of our tray. And I'm just showing you here that this bottom is very secure. It is not going to fall apart. So now I just need to measure the edges so I know exactly where to mark on all of my signs to cut. Now you can use a handsaw or a miter saw, whatever you use to cut. And then I did drill a couple of holes in these. And as you can see, I ended up having to use a little bit of spackling because it's like a compressed wood. It's not like solid wood, if that makes sense. And so it kind of tore a little bit when my drill went through. So just a little spackling over that. Now I just use my super glue and my wood glue to glue those sides down first. And then I am going to glue these other edges, the front and back in. And if you saw me there, I made sure to put super glues on the edge of those pieces as well as the bottom part, so that way all of my surfaces that are touching are well glued together. Now at first I was just going to do one base coat of chalk paint because all of those signs are different colors, and I was kind of using this as a primer coat, and then I was going to spray paint it. I ended up just doing the whole thing with chalk paint in my studio, and I really do like how it turned out. But just know that you have to go in between each of these palettes with a little detail brush to make sure that those are all painted in between. So it takes a little bit of love and effort and time here. Spray paint may do a little bit quicker of a job for you, but I'm just letting you know how it was. But I'm so pleased with how this came out. I'm so happy that I did take the time to do this. So just that little detail brush in between each of those. Now I do decide to distress mine because you guys know I love that. That is totally my style. And when I've seen these in the store, they have had kind of that distressed finish. So I'm just using some antiquing wax on a chip brush. I will dip my antiquing wax in, and then I will wipe it off a little bit on a paper towel and then just lightly brush over the areas there. So I did the inside of my tray first, and then I go through on all of the edges and make sure that they're well covered as well. You just want to make sure that if you're doing a distressing finish like this, you want to make sure all of the areas are covered. So the inside of the tray, the outsides of the tray, outside sides, if that makes sense here. And then I kind of go along the edges like I'm doing right here. I feel that that gives a little bit of definition to the edges as well and really helps it to look really good. And I just love how it turns out. Now I'm using a little bit of the rope from Dollar Tree, and I am just going to put a little painter's tape on the edge so I can feed it through where I drilled my hole. If you didn't want to drill holes on here, you could easily super glue some like door handles or something onto the edge of this. If you don't have like the tools or don't feel comfortable using a drill or anything like that, just go to the craft store or hardware store and find a couple of drawer pulls and just use some super glue on the sides. Would work easily as well. But I just tie the rope in knots on either end there and then just pull it tight against, as you saw, I pulled it through to help that knot get really tight, and then just cut off the excess. And then I just repeat the same process on the other side. After I got my handles on and picked this tray up, I was instantly in love. I think this is going to be so fun to style. I love how this turns out. I think that it is such a solid piece, you guys. It's not flimsy at all. And I've seen these in different craft stores. I mean, look how cute it is standing up like this. Like, I just think it is so cute. But I've seen these in craft stores go for like lots more than it cost me to make this. And it took a little bit of time, but it is a piece that is going to be a staple for me for years to come. And I am so excited to get to style it in different ways and come up with different places to put it. I would love to know down in the comments what you guys think of this one and if this is something that you would attempt. This is such a fun DIY, and it can be made with all Dollar Tree products. So I'm using this welcome sign, one of these wood round signs, and then this tile piece. I love these tile pieces from Dollar Tree. Now this is actually inspired by a piece that I saw Brenda from Rustic and Lace make in the 5 Under 5 challenge. I'll leave a link to her video so you can see how cute her project is that she made, or I'll leave a photo of it here so you can see. But it totally inspired me that I wanted to make something similar out of I had all of these pieces that I wanted to do. So I'm just cutting this tin piece. It's not really tin, it's just like a plastic. I cut it down to fit the circular shape of that sign. When you're gluing it on here, be careful because that is plastic. It will radiate that heat and become hot. So I'm just using my brayer to make sure that that gets adhered to the wood piece for my sign. I love these tile pieces. The blue color is a new color that Dollar Tree has had, and so I'm really excited to kind of work with this one. Now I was showing you there that I had a little piece of where the edge of the tile was that hit the top of my sign, and so that's where I place the top of the sign because I'll cover it up with a bow. Now I'm giving this a very aged look with some antiquing wax and a baby wipe, and I'm just kind of pushing it all over. I wanted this to look extremely aged in Farmhouse. So really this step would be completely optional. So now I'm just removing the hanging twine on this welcome sign. Just be careful when you're doing this because I felt it kind of like wobble a little bit, almost like it would break in half. So just be really careful removing that. You could even cut it off, would be easier. And I started putting some antiquing wax on with a baby wipe because I wanted it to have that dark brown color, but it was kind of not giving the coverage that I wanted. So I just went into a method of using a brush to adhere it with, or to apply it with. And then I did take a chip brush with some white chalk paint on it to kind of make it pop that three-dimensional look. Honestly, I don't feel that added too much to it, so you could probably skip that step as well. But I'm just using some hot glue, and then I am just lining it up to where those letters all fit onto my sign, and I'm using that line that's provided on the tile to kind of make sure that I get it straight. Now this twine came from the nautical line at Dollar Tree this year, and I have loved it. This is rope, not twine though. They did have twine, which is really cute. That's what Brenda ended up using on her sign. But I'm just taking this rope and I'm just going to glue all around the edge to kind of give this a more finished look. I just thought it kind of added a little something to it, something extra. It was just there, and I thought it was really cute. So I'm just using a little bit of glue on the edges, and then I do work in little segments, as you can see here, and I'll place that glue down and then just gently make sure you don't burn your fingers with that glue. This would be a perfect project to wear your little silicone finger caps for, and I think I kind of use them here and there throughout this. When I get around all the way around the sign, I just cut that excess off and then just glue it down there, and you can see I'm using my little silicone finger cap there. And now I need some greenery, so I just took one of these little sprigs from Dollar Tree and cut it up so I had a couple of pieces to go on either side of my sign there. And then what I decided is I needed a bow, and I have this burlap ribbon, and this would be completely optional, and I know Dollar Tree sells burlap ribbon. You could even just use jute twine. But I decided to make a little bow here just by making a loop out of the burlap there and then just some tails. You can kind of watch what I'm doing. And I just fold that little bow over, and then I fold the tails to kind of tie all together here because I wanted those tails to kind of hang downwards rather than out of the sides of the loops, I think that makes sense. And you can see I just tie it off with a little piece of twine because we'll cover that up in a minute. And on these little sprigs of greenery, I tie them with twine too because I thought that would be the easiest to make sure that they don't come falling off of there, and I just have to glue one piece on rather than 4 pieces. So in my mind that made sense. And then I just put a little bit of glue there and tie that bow. Now you can see I did dovetail those. And when I glue my ribbon down, I kind of pull those little tails down so I do have more of a downward motion. And I just glued a little hanging piece onto the back. But I think this turned out absolutely darling. How cute would this be on a front door or hanging on a porch somewhere? I think it is so cute. What do you guys think of this? Are you guys on Instagram? If you are, I would love if you would come and find me. I am Farm Charm Chic over there. I'll leave a link down in my description box so you can easily find me. But come and see what I'm working on. I post there quite a bit. I like to show you things that I'm working on or when I have videos ready. It's just another place to stay in touch. So if you do come find me, remember to send me a DM and say hi, because I do love meeting new friends. I'm taking these two little signs that I got in the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree, and I'm just removing the twine from each of them. And then on one of them, I just want to cover the holes. So I'm trying this little method of using some hot glue in there and just kind of scraping that off. You can use spackling, whatever you would like to do to cover in those holes. In fact, if you decided you didn't want to, that's up to you. And then I just have this beaded garland that I also got at Dollar Tree, and I am just running a bead of hot glue around the edge here, you can see. And then I'm just going to lay these beads one by one all the way around the perimeter of this oval. Now, I was one bead short from having this completely come together, so you could space this accordingly or just kind of measure it out in the beginning. I did have some extra beads, so you may need 2 strands to do this if you really want to be exact with it. And you can just kind of see that bead fit perfectly in there. And then I just go around the inside of it with some hot glue to help make sure these are all adhered really well. On the top layer, I'm just putting some glue around the whole perimeter here, and then I'm just going to turn this over and set it on top of all of those beads there, and then the beads are sandwiched between these two little oval signs. Now, yeah, I can use these little same beads from Dollar Tree, but I had some bigger ones that I wanted to use, a little bit chunkier beads, so it's up to you what size of beads or how you want to do your feet on here. But you want something to kind of rise this up off your surface, so I'm just using some hot glue to glue these in. I just kind of space them accordingly. Now I just paint mine a white color. You can stain it whatever you want to do, and I am just taking my emery board and roughing up the front part of all those beads that are exposed there. And then I'm just going to dry brush some mineral chalk paint on there, and I also go over with some white to kind of give it a little whitewashed look over that distressing. I love how the texture and the detail came out in this one. This just screams farmhouse to me. I think it is so cute and it's perfect. It's like a staple piece that you'll use all year long in a lot of different decorating, and it's just a cute way to kind of display a little vignette. Right now at Dollar Tree, they have these darling signs in their nautical area, and I'm just going to take off this little seashell because I'll use that for something else. And yes, this sign is beautiful the way that it is, but you guys, these signs right here are the exact same size as Dollar Tree's calendar pages. So if you have a favorite calendar page that you want to display or looking for something easy to do to kind of jazz up your decor, this is the perfect sign to get. So just keep that in mind. So all I'm doing is just taking my paint scraper, and you saw me remove that seashell, and now I'm just going to slip it underneath that frame, and I'm just going to go around the entire frame to break it free. And you can kind of see that there's a little bit of paper. I just wanted to be very gentle with that frame because I didn't want it to break. Now I love this farmhouse page here with that darling wreath. It's very neutral, and I just absolutely love it. And so that's what I chose to put on mine. Now watch this, you guys. Look at how easy this paper tears off of this. I don't know if all the signs are going to be that way, but I was absolutely floored that that came off that easy. So now I'm just going to take some black paint because I thought that would match that calendar page well. You could leave this whatever color was on there would be totally fine and skip this step and make it even easier. I just thought that black would match a little bit better with that calendar page and with my decor. And now I'm just taking a little bit of the purple glue stick. This is from Elmer's, and I'm just going to go around the edges really well to make sure. And then I don't do super a ton in the middle, just enough to hold that calendar page down, because we are going to glue that frame on the top of it that will also help it stick. And so I just kind of center that before placing it down. You have a little bit of wiggle room to kind of move it around and get it centered, all of that fun stuff. And then I'll smooth it out, and I also grab my brayer just to make sure that it gets any bubbles or anything like that completely out, and that way it adheres to everywhere where the glue was placed. I just take the end of a paintbrush and stick that through those little holes there because I want to place that little hanging tag back on it. And then I am just going to take my hot glue is all I use, and I'm just going to glue each section on. Now this frame came off in one piece, but when I went to glue it on, I realized it was going to be easier to kind of break them apart and glue each one on individually. So that way I could have a little bit more control over where it went and the spacing and all of that. So that's why I ended up taking and totally disassembling the frame. It's super easy to do. I mean, it's just held together by a little bit of like the paper that was left on the back of it. So, I mean, it was literally just like ripping them apart. And as you just saw, I used my brayer a couple of times just to help get that pressed down really well and evenly. And on this top piece, you just match up the little holes that are there because I do want to place that hanging little beaded hanger from it. And then you just take, what I did is I took a little bit of white chalk paint on a chip brush and kind of went over the edges. This just kind of gave it a little bit more of a farmhouse look. I always like to distress a little bit there. And then I just replaced this little beaded hanging thing from it. And I had a couple of extra beads that were the same size, and I thought it would look better to have a few more beads. So I just placed those on there. Now it looks cute with this little thing hanging down like this, or you can hang it from the tag. Either way. I just love that these signs are in Dollar Tree right now and that they are the exact size of these calendar pages because there are some beautiful pages. I'm sure you guys have seen so many DIYs with these, but this is so simple to be able to display in this way. Anyway, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this one. I love these little buckets from Dollar Tree. They're super cute the way they are, but I'm going to give this one a little bit of a makeover. So I'm just going to use my heat tool to kind of loosen the glue where this twine is to take this twine off. Now my intent was to put this twine back on when I was done, but I ended up doing something else there. So I'm just going to give this a coat of white paint here. You could easily tape that twine off if you don't want to take the trouble to remove it. I'm just going to use this buffalo check ribbon here. Now this is a little bit wider than that area that it needs to go on the bucket. So I'm just going to fold it in half, and rather than cut it and have a raw edge that could fray, I'm just going to use my flat iron to use kind of as an iron, and I'm just going to go on work in sections and go along the edge of the ribbon so that way it has a nice crease where I want it to be folded. Now I'm just going to take my aim and flame and I'm just going to burn the edge of this. It kind of melts the ribbon a little bit so it won't fray. And then I just use some hot glue to glue it down. When I get to this edge, I do fold it under so that way I don't have a raw edge there or anything, and I just use hot glue to secure that. These darling rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree are so cute, and I love this little one here that has like the little flower market sign on it. And so I'm just going to put this onto the front. So I just peel the backing off and then lay this down. And then this particular, I don't know if it's all of these rub-on transfers. I usually have a really good success rate with the rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. But you just take like a wooden stick and you're just kind of rubbing over the areas. And this one took a little bit of time, maybe like 15 minutes or so for me to kind of work with it. And it still doesn't end up perfect like I would have liked. But just work slowly in sections, and I like to use the wood craft tool or your fingernail or something to kind of get a good, you can see where it kind of peeled up my paint. So I've used these a lot, and so I was just going off my past experience. So I don't know if I didn't let my paint dry enough or exactly what it was, but you can kind of see it was giving me a little bit of trouble. So just be patient. You can go in and lay it back down, and you can kind of see when I take it off here, the W wasn't so great. So I just go back in and I'm just going to have to touch these little areas up with a little detail brush, which is fine. That's part of the fun of having it be like a country or farmhouse look, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. What I'm doing now is I'm just taking my sponge brush and I'm going around the edges to give this an enameled look. I really like the look of the two-tone of black and white together, especially with that ribbon. I do the same thing on the bottom here with this little ring, and then I do decide to go in and make a couple of like chipped areas. So just very selectively, you can get really out of hand with doing this sometimes and overdo it. So just pick a few areas selectively to kind of make look like chipped enamel. I thought it would be a really good way with this transfer to kind of hide any of the errors or make it look like they were intentional or it was just aged or something. So I just kind of very selectively go through and pick a couple of areas to look like the chipped enamel. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I like this one with that stencil giving me as much trouble as it did, but I thought this turned out really cute. I think it's perfect for a little touch of farmhouse decor, and it fits one of those IKEA plants in it perfectly. I love the look of this little frosted glass lantern from Kirkland's and thought I could easily recreate something similar with this glass little jar that I found at Dollar Tree. Now this does have this little twine around the top of it, and so I'm going to leave that rather than try to find anything, since it's all kind of like a one-stop shop thing with this, if that makes sense. So I'm just using my little heat tool to remove that sticker from the bottom, and then I'm just going to wipe it off and get it all cleaned up. I will also take this little twine off now because I'm going to frost the glass on this little lantern. I will be replacing that once this process is done. So there is a little bit of glue on the sides of the lip of the jar there, so I just use my heat tool to get that completely cleaned off, so that way the glass is completely clean. To frost this, I'm just using this Rust-Oleum frosted glass spray. I have never used this before, so this was the first time, and I absolutely love the process. I just took this out into my little spray paint studio in my garage. It's just a giant box that I have so it doesn't get all over everything. And I just give this about 3 really light coats. I just go in just a typical spray paint motion, you know, just little small bursts, stay about 12 inches away. Let it thoroughly dry in between each layer. This is so satiny. The finish is so beautiful. It is so smooth, and I love how this turns out. This is definitely a hit, and I will be using this frosted glass from Rust-Oleum much more often. This is not sponsored or anything by them. I just ended up really liking this product. So I'm just going to replace this little twine back on here, and I am going to have that little handle, get that put into place as well. So I just use a little bit of glue. That's how it was originally affixed to the jar. So after I kind of get all of my measurements down here, I don't really measure anything. You guys know that. I just kind of eyeball it, and then I'm just going to hot glue where I want the pieces to be, and then I will be able to have that little handle to hang my lantern from. After I have glued into place where my little handle is, I'm just going to wrap around the rest of that twine, and I will just kind of tuck the pieces under and glue that. You can kind of watch how I do that here if you decide to recreate this. Now, if you want to go for the same vibe and you don't want to spray paint it, you could easily just go look for this lantern at Dollar Tree. It would be super cute. Of course, I found that on Kirkland's, and then I saw this at Dollar Tree and thought, oh my gosh, this is the perfect opportunity to try and frost glass, since I've never actually done that, and I just love how it turns out. But you can kind of see I'm just going to tuck that back under. Now I could have easily gone and thought of something else to do to make more of a wood type of handle on this, but I thought it was just easier to do it this way, and I got the same feel and the same look from this. So now I'm just going to take a couple of these little tea lights. These also came from Dollar Tree. You just pull the little tab out and they light up, and I end up putting 2 of them in there to add a little bit more light. Here's a quick look at our inspiration piece that was from Kirkland's, and then here is the piece that I recreated. I really think this turned out great. You're going to get that same feel and that same vibe from this lantern. I love how that frosted spray paint turned out, and this really was just a couple of dollars, which is a fraction of the price from the original Kirkland's version. What do you guys think of this? Do you like how it turned out? Would you try that frosted glass after seeing this? I loved how it turned out. Isn't this little guy so cute? I just love garden gnomes. I don't necessarily decorate my home with gnomes, but I love them in my garden. And sometimes the things that you find, I did get this at Dollar Tree, but sometimes the things don't have the best paint job on them. So I'm going to make this a little bit more neutral, kind of like concrete or aged looking. So of course you could easily just leave this little guy the way that he was. I mean, he is darling. You could even paint over him in different colors, change his hat color, his shirt color, whatever you would want to do. But I'm just putting some white chalk paint all around him. I'm going to do 2 coats to get a really good coverage. You could even do more of a gray if you wanted like a true concrete look. You could spray paint him if that was easier. I even thought about spray painting him like a copper color, I thought, or a rust color would be kind of cute. Ultimately, this is the direction I went, but there's so many possibilities that you can do. I decided to put some antique wax. I decided to rub it on at first with a baby wipe and kind of go around it and then wipe off all the raised parts, because I wanted that antiquing wax to go into all the little crevices and like the little locks of his hair and his beard and everywhere. And it just wasn't doing it the way that I wanted this way. I just really wanted it to look like it has sat out in a garden for a long, long time. Like he's really bringing like all of that good luck to your garden. And so I decided ultimately to get a brush and just go on. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dark. This is not going to work at all. But you guys, it works so good. So just watch when I get my baby wipe out and start to wipe him off. And you see it all come off, except it's just deep down in all those little crevices. See what I mean? How that comes off? It just looks so good. And so I decided to keep going. And so I just go over the whole thing with this. Every little area, I just layer the antiquing wax on fairly thick and just keep brushing over and over until I feel like I've got it in there enough. And then I will go in with the baby wipe and wipe it off. You wouldn't even have to use like a baby wipe. You could probably even just use a paper towel. But I just, like I said, I wanted him to look really aged, like he has just been sitting out in that garden for many, many years, just having a grand old time in your garden. After I get him aged a bit, I just want to take a little bit of what's dry left on my brush and kind of go over and highlight a little bit more, just to add a little bit, kind of contrast that antique wax a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing here. Obviously, it would be optional to do this, but I really like the way that it kind of made a little bit more white pop on him. And I think he just turns out so cute. You guys, look at him. I just love him. He needs a name. I don't know what to name him. If you have an idea for a garden gnome name, please let me know down in the comments. I just think he is so cute. And I haven't really decorated in my home with gnomes. I know that they're really big and everybody loves them. I've always liked garden gnomes, but he's going to have to stay, I think. I really like him. And that is my top 10 Dollar Tree DIYs of 2022. Did your favorite make the list? I would love to know which of these you liked the most down in the comments. I would also like to know what you're looking forward to seeing in 2023. Do you want to keep seeing more Dollar Tree DIYs? Do you want to see more home DIYs? What are you looking for? I would love to be able to accommodate everyone or as many people as I can, or different DIYs. I just love creating, whether it's crafting, whether it's home remodeling, furniture flips, things like that. So definitely let me know down in the comments what you would like to see for next year. You guys have a very happy and safe New Year's, and I will see you next year. Happy crafting! If you liked the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.